All right, good morning. Welcome back to the Twisting Rose. It's July 7th, day 20, and I'm heading down to the old town for a guru walk tour. Not sure what we're going to see, but obviously something historical. So, walk with me and we'll find out. So, our tour guide basically said that all these buildings that we see, I assume they were the original buildings, but they were actually rebuilt in the 1990s after Germany became unified. They look remarkably like buildings from the 19th century, even earlier. It's quite amazing. So this is a courtyard for horses, but they also did jousting, in between these areas. They're divided so the knights basically would try to knock each other off their horses with long lances. This is the model of the Dresden castle. So you saw this picture yesterday, or this video yesterday, and one thing about how this thing is etched, it's actually quite interesting. They first paint this in the gray color, and then they etch it away, and all that remains is the white. So what you're seeing is the true surface of the block or the wall. And once the paint is scraped away. And only after that was chosen the capital, there were plans. So as I mentioned before, the old town here has been rebuilt. Actually, it's been rebuilt since the late 1990s. And the first facility or structure that was built is this church, which I visited yesterday, and it was destroyed during the bombing of Dresden. Some interesting facts about the bombing of Dresden. First off is that the British sent pathfinders, and dropped phosphorus flares to light up the target because it was bombed during at night. Then came waves of both British and American Air Forces. They first bombed with heavy bombs, bunker busters, 2-ton bombs. Essentially what that did is it blew the windows out and blew the roofs out, basically to create a lot of oxygen so that once the incendiary bombs dropped, it would create a chimney effect, and basically it would fuel the fire much more readily. A lot of people have heard about the fire bombs, but it created its own atmosphere. In fact, it's like a hurricane. People got sucked into these fires because of the amount of wind that was created, just because oxygen was feeding these buildings that were on fire. Most people actually weren't burned to death. They suffocated. They just didn't have the oxygen to breathe. So as a result, the bodies were whole. They weren't charred. I mean, obviously there were some people that were caught on fire, of course, but and you know what? They actually found bodies when they were rebuilding in the 1960s. They estimated about 25,000 people died as a result. The purpose of the bombing remains a bit controversial. Most of the industry actually was outside of the old city. They did have some munitions. They did have some factories for the war effort, but they were outside the city. And the old city basically was the one that was destroyed, and of course it's been rebuilt since. And of course, this was part of East Germany, the socialist Germany, and very little was done by the Soviets at the time. Yeah, it's beautiful. So all these buildings, you know, I mean, they restored them to what, you know, they would look like in maybe the 19th century. One of the things that reasons why they did bomb is to create confusion and panic, because the Soviets were pushing from the east to Berlin, and this is a major junction for troop movements. So several roads leading from the western front to the eastern front, and they decided to bomb it, even though the war was pretty well over in February of 1945, and that's when the bombing took place. Yeah, there's an awful lot to basically try to understand why they bombed the city. A lot of people thought it was morally wrong to go after civilians like that. Propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels basically apparently wept for 20 minutes, and he basically harangued Hermann Goering because his Luftwaffe didn't do anything to prevent the bombing from the Americans to the British. Anyway, there's a statue of Martin Luther, the original leader of the Reformation in Saxony, and in fact he was quite prominent role. Our tour guide said that when he nailed his writings, I think there were 94 documents or briefs that he wrote about the Reformation, and he nailed it to one of the churches. They found out that it was him, and he was sentenced to death, but one of the kings of Saxony here basically commuted his sentence, and he was released and was told to basically get out of town and under an assumed name. So I made travel plans on getting back to Brussels, and believe it or not, I'm flying from Dresden to Frankfurt, and then from Frankfurt to Brussels I need to take a train, but 4 trains, 3 transfers, in order to get to Brussels before it closes at 5 o'clock. My flight leaves at 6. It gets in at 7, and then it's about 6 hours of train rides between Frankfurt and Brussels. Now, I could have taken a flight directly from Dresden to Brussels, but the ticket prices were just ridiculous. They were about 600 euros. It is a Saturday, so I decided to go this way. Now I'm going to have to overnight at least one night in Brussels, maybe 2, depending on what tour I'm going to go on or what road. And that's another thing. I looked at my schedule, and because I will have wasted maybe 11 days in total, I won't be able to get to Norway. And if I go to Norway, and the weather's going to be crappy, because I looked at the long-range weather, then I'm going to have to spend 3 days on the Autobahns coming back. So I've decided to shelve those plans, even though I put in a lot of time coming up with a detailed route, and go to France. So I'm going to go to Saint-Michel, Saint-Lô, and then connect the Loire Valley and start heading south back to Heidelberg. So this is the Elbe River. These are river cruise boats here, and you can tell that the river is really down. Amazing, isn't it? A beautiful old bridge here. And pretty soon they won't be able to float these boats. This building over here is the Museum of Dresden. Or there. And it looks like he's rowing effortlessly. There's an interesting canopy these trees provide. I'm not sure what kind of trees they are, but it's very cool underneath. A lot of money being poured into Dresden to restore these buildings. I couldn't resist walking by this gelato shop. I go in and get some pistachio ice cream. Wonderful. Well, I'm going to call it a day. It's only 1:40 in the afternoon, but I've got to make some travel arrangements. I've got to find a hotel to stay at in Brussels for tomorrow. Start planning a base camp route for my GPS to get to Saint Michel. Yeah, and a few other things. So I've got a 6 o'clock flight to catch, so I'll have to be up by 4:30. Yep. As much as I hate to leave Dresden, I think another day would have been great, but I just got to get back on the road. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the walk today, and stay with me for tomorrow's adventure, because it's going to be trains, planes, and automobile, a taxi to the airport. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.